Although edited for television, tonight's thriller contains scenes of suspense and violence which may be unsuitable for young viewers. Parental discretion is advised.
State-of-the-art Japanese animation.
Hi folks, and welcome back to the Otaku Host Club. This is Geoff, and I am joined by no one. That's because this is a very special live recording from our Otakon panel. That's right folks, you're gonna get a little taste of what it was like to be in the audience of our most iconic anime characters panel. We will also be uploading this video to YouTube at some point, so stay tuned to that, and without further delay, enjoy the show.
Okay.
Is this our microphone?
What's up, Sean?
Yo, Sean!
Now they turn off the lock screen.
You what? Auto lock never.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So we are the Otaku Host Club podcast, and this is our first time appearing at Otakon, doing a panel like this, so it's very exciting for us. So I'm Dan, I have with me Amelia.
Hey.
I got with me Geoff.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about iconic anime characters and discussing what it actually means to be popular, what it means to be an icon, and how do characters get to that point.
Has everyone gotten a survey? Taken a survey?
Cool, we're gonna be doing results throughout the panel for the audience members.
Yeah, so as we all know, in the community, we talk a lot about how anime is becoming more popular. It's gaining mainstream recognition. My coworkers are talking about how they watched How I Got Reincarnated in Slime, whatever that show is. I haven't watched it.
In Slime, it's definitely.
Yeah, they came back, they were surrounded by slime, they didn't know what to do.
Slime
Very
babies.
slimy.
Yeah, clearly that's not one that I've seen, but even the fact that my coworkers at my federal government job are talking about this is indicative that, anime is on the rise. But what does it really mean to be popular, right? Is that just an issue of sales, that more people are buying this stuff? Is it an issue of accessibility, that anime is more common throughout our daily lives? How does that translate into our own daily lives? Is it that everybody knows this stuff, or is it just that everyone recognizes certain key characters? You have a little bit of experience with Cardcaptor Sakura with that.
Yeah, so I always get recognized for my Cardcaptor Sakura keychain that I won at round 1 arcade. I got all of them. But people young and old always stop me, and there's this little girl at Joann's when I was making cosplay, when I was getting cosplay supplies, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love your Cardcaptor Sakura keychain," and I was like, "Girl, I don't even think you were alive when Cardcaptor Sakura was airing, but thank you."
Yeah, so, as we know, to be iconic is to be a representative symbol, to be worthy of adoration. But what does it mean? How do we create icons? Is it just a matter of popularity? And I was especially curious how meme culture played into this. Could something become popular purely on the power of memes and the power of internet culture, disregarding its context in the actual show? And we'll see a little bit of that, see a little bit of whether that actually works or not as we discuss our results.
Mm-hmm.
So our first attempt at talking about this topic was actually on our podcast. The three of us each did some kind of informal surveys and polls, and then we discussed the results on our podcast. And we found some kind of interesting things. Obviously, in retrospect, it's obvious, but Goku from Dragon Ball Z was basically near universally recognized among all the people that we talked to.
Yep.
Totoro and Naruto also on par with that, but a little bit lower. Luffy and Tanjiro scored even lower than that. People without a specific interest in anime didn't really recognize these characters. But we were really surprised that the Akatsuki design from Naruto, just the red clouds, scored similarly to Naruto himself, that people recognized even just the garb of the Akatsuki as much as the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so as far as my experience with just like being in public and people, I'm wearing this shirt right now, right? Tanjiro. And like walking down the street and someone saying Tanjiro and like yelling out the car window. Has anyone experienced that? Whether they're wearing an anime shirt and someone just acknowledges it. Feels good, right? But usually those shows are more well known. Not quite as well known as Astro Boy or Lupin, for example. But yeah, Darling in the Franxx, known for its being bad.
Darling in the Franxx shirt right there.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But she's iconic in a lot of ways, right?
Is it just character design too? Like we want to know if it's not only like the writing of the show or the popularity of the show, but like is the character's like design just like so iconic that it's just instantly recognizable?
Yeah, and we also found that it didn't really matter if a character was the main character or not. For example, we found that in Hunter x Hunter, the Phantom Troop scored equally well as Gon and Killua, despite not being the main characters. They're not even in half the episodes of Hunter x Hunter. Mm-hmm. But people love a good antagonist. And yeah, as we prepared for this panel, we kind of took our survey beyond just our immediate friend group, and we asked, each of us asked 100 random people, whether it's from the gym, from the video game arcade, our family, our friends' families, our coworkers, bandmates. We asked a wide range of people if they recognize any of these different sets of characters. And yeah, we're gonna see if, just how does one get to the point of iconicness, the point of popularity? So we kind of went decade by decade, and each of us chose characters that we thought had a good chance of being iconic. Mm-hmm. So in the 70s, these were the three characters we were asking people about. And a lot of you have participated in our survey and in the room.
Yes. So right now we're getting 31% recognizability for Lupin. 30% for Doraemon, and 35% for Gundam, which is the RX-78. He is a character in its own right, I believe. Or it's they.
Yeah, so Gundam was my choice for iconic characters from the 70s because Gundam is real and it's stationed in Yokohama. If you didn't know that, there's a life-size Gundam in Yokohama, Japan, and it is the responsibility of all spacefaring people to destroy this Gundam and free Xi'an. That's what I think.
And I chose Doraemon because when I went to Japan, this character was on everything from kids' snacks to candy to like notebooks and street signs. And it's kind of cool to see what characters are more iconic over in the States versus in the country that they're made in. And I thought Doraemon was the most recognizable character that I saw when I was over there.
Yeah, but I'm curious to see how Doraemon fares because Doraemon isn't as well distributed in the US, right?
Yeah, but his franchise is has spanned from the 70s up until even last year. There was a 3D animated movie that released.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Geoff's choice was Lupin.
Yes, he's one of my favorite characters. I don't know if anyone's been down in the dealer's room yet. I assume everyone has. And there is a life-size Fiat. It's a scale model.
Yeah.
No, it's real.
Yeah, if you really want to be like Lupin, you should steal it and drive it out.
Paying homage. Yeah, he just has longevity. He's been around for more than 50 years, and
yeah, so Doraemon and Lupin both are characters that are from the 70s who have had series that lasted this long.
Yeah, but also Gundam, and it's interesting, as I asked people about Gundam, almost as many people asked if that was actually Voltron, which I was like, really? You recognize Voltron, but not Gundam? Very strange to me. And a lot of people asked if it was Transformers, which is not correct, but I can understand giant robot, kind of synonymous with Transformers, depending on where you're at. But even if people don't recognize the Gundam, there's still Gundam is its own world. It's real. There's 50,000 Gundams. In my mind, if you see a giant robot, that is synonymous with Gundam, regardless of whether it's actually Gundam or not. Okay, but this is what we found, so when we actually asked 100 people if they recognized any of these characters, only 38 people recognized Doraemon.
Most people, when I asked, I started the quiz off with a hard mode, and I prefaced that it was hard mode because I kind of figured that Doraemon wasn't going to be as easily recognizable from my circle and my friend group, because I do watch a lot of seasonal anime and kind of the newer anime, but most people didn't get it, and the people that did recognize Doraemon were people that have only watched older anime, so they only knew the first couple characters that I asked. They didn't know anything past the 90s.
And we have 38 people who recognize Doraemon in the audience right now.
It's literally the same 38 people we asked. All right, Lupin scored a little bit better. Lupin came in with 57%. Most people recognized who Lupin was, which I personally found surprising. I don't think of Lupin as being all that particularly huge, but Geoff, what was your experience with that?
I disagree.
Yeah, apparently the people disagree with me.
Yeah. Well, we could have, there's tons of characters to choose from. There's Harlock. There's
Joe,
absolutely. Ashitano Joe. Does anyone want to watch that series? Anybody? Boxing? Hey!
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, there's the hard part about this was just choosing the right characters and having one selection for each decade. Very hard.
Well, I feel like Lupin's probably a little bit more recognizable now since Netflix picked up a series.
Yeah, Netflix has a live action Lupin.
A live action Lupin.
Yeah.
Is that what they're promoting downstairs?
Is that?
No. That Lupin is a live action adaptation of novels.
Oh.
It's like a new take on the original Lupin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can watch
Season
it.
2.
Six episodes?
It just came out on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to go back to my hotel room and watch it. Okay. See you guys.
Bye.
All right. So I thought for sure that Gundam was going to trounce everybody in this, but Gundam did not. Gundam came in lower than Lupin. Only 46% of people recognized Gundam.
Yep.
And that was very surprising to me because I think of Gundam as being this huge, as someone has called it on the internet, it's the Star Wars of Japan, right? It is a huge cultural force in other parts of the world, but that just did not trickle effectively into the U.S. Even though, Toonami was airing Gundam Wing.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gundam, Adult Swim, yeah.
I didn't see it on Toonami, but that's just
Gundam Wing.
Yeah. I have not seen any Gundam series except for Iron Blooded Orphans, and that's only recently for our podcast we did a review. But yeah.
I had a huge crush on Hero growing up.
Both of these are Gundam boys over here, so.
I recently, so that was my big project in 2020.
Yeah.
2020 was my year of the Gundam. I watched the entire Gundam franchise in one calendar year. So now I am a Gundam guy. That's why I know Gundam is real. All right, so that's how the 70s fared. We will move on to the 80s. So, Amelia.
Yes, Arle. Does anybody know Arle? Yes. All right, that's what I'm looking for because I don't know why, but when I was asking people, they didn't know her. And I'm kind of curious to see if Arle translates because it's a character designed by Akira Toriyama. What? Yeah. And it's the anime before Dragon Ball. So, he's an iconic creator, so I figured his character before that might be just as iconic, but we'll see.
And Geoff was asking people about Kaneda.
Do you have a comment?
Arle did make a cameo movie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In what?
In Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not as big as a fan, huh?
So that's the big joke, right? If you see Arle, oh yeah, it's that character from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, she rides on the Nimbus.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So Kaneda, you've probably seen him sliding across on his motorcycle, and it's been duplicated over and over again, even in The Simpsons and other popular cartoons in America. So I think he
And
has.
streetwear.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Supreme, I believe.
Yeah, I think Akira certainly has a big crossover appeal, right? Like not only for anime people, but even people just into movies in general, from my experience, would say that's their token anime movie, as I'm sure we can all relate to. Everyone into movies has a token anime movie they're into. Like, oh yeah, I'm not really an anime guy, but I like Akira, but I like Ghost in the Shell. Mm-hmm. You're an anime guy, so. So my choice, my pick for iconicness was Totoro. I'm a big Totoro guy. I got the Totoro bath towel, Totoro toilet seat cover, Totoro cuckoo clock, all sorts of Totoro like stationery and desk stuff. Yeah, stuffed animals, the whole 9 yards. Totoro not only has his own movie that's distributed both by Disney and by Troma, but he's part of the Studio Ghibli logo. People would see Totoro on every Studio Ghibli movie, if they're watching from start to finish.
Is it really distributed by Troma?
Yeah, My Neighbor Totoro was originally licensed and distributed in the U.S. by Troma
That's
Films.
crazy.
I know, that's wild, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's a cool anime factoid right there. Before Disney got hip to it, the real ones knew what was up.
Yeah.
That's the antithesis of Disney, Troma.
Yeah, it shows the broad spectrum of appeal, of My Neighbor Totoro. So what did the people in the room say?
The survey says Kaneda gets 43 votes, Totoro gets 56 votes, and Arale 36.
Oh, in the 30s again with my character.
Yeah, well,
She's so cute.
That's what we found when we asked 100 people. 37% recognized Arale.
It's a shame. She's so cute.
Yeah, but Akira did a lot, or Kaneda did a lot better. 57%.
Yeah,
Most
when I was
people,
asking people, it was like, if they didn't know his name, they knew Akira instantly.
Yeah, a lot of people would just say, oh yeah, that's Akira. Or someone said that was Tetsuo. That's close enough in my opinion. But the one that really wiped the floor with everyone was Totoro, coming up in 72.
Yep.
Yeah, so we will move on to the 90s. And the 90s, in our opinion, kind of has the broadest range of iconic characters.
We really couldn't
popular
decide. So
characters.
there was a lot of characters for the 90s that we were asking people about.
Yeah, you were asking people about Usagi.
Yes, every single person that I asked knew who Sailor Moon was. If they didn't know her name, they knew that she was Sailor Moon.
Yeah, as you say, for a lot of people, Sailor Moon was their first anime show.
Usagi was probably their first introduction into magical girls in that genre, whereas like my introduction into magical girls was Cardcaptor Sakura. And that's what I think of as like the OG magical girl, but apparently everyone else thinks it's Usagi, which like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Chose Spike. Spike is, speaking of Netflix, he's going to be, Cowboy Bebop is going to have an adaptation on Netflix coming.
So wait, they've been saying that. I feel like they say that every couple of years, for the
it's
last
official.
decade.
It's coming
in production
soon.
And it's coming out. So I think that.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop does not need a live action adaptation. Absolutely not.
Ghost in the Shell either?
No.
Yes.
These are stories that you can't tell with
No,
real
the Ghost in
people.
the Shell live action was good, okay?
Oh. Anyone disagree?
It was
Fascinating.
good. It was so good.
There was. That is true. There's the Fist of the North Star live action.
Well, there was SAT 2045.
Battle Angel Alita live action movie I thought was splendid.
Yes.
Absolutely great. Yeah, I see some thumbs up. It's true. So I was asking people about Rei Ayanami. I'm literally wearing her shirt right now. I figure that's iconic. As everybody is emotionally distanced sweetheart, But we also asked about two other characters. We asked about Sakura.
Yes. Yes, I love her so much. She's so cute. And then I think it was 2018, they aired Clear Card Hen, which is like the second adaptation that adapts the rest of the manga or the rest of the story. And it starts from exactly where they left off in the 90s, which I thought was amazing. Sakura and Shaoran get back together. And, it's just the cutest thing. And, she fights demons in her town, and I just feel like she is a very iconic person to me.
And we asked people about Goku. Goku from Fox Network's Saturday morning cartoons, which is my first experience with Dragon Ball Z, all the way to Adult Swim, to Crunchyroll, from Hot Topic to high fashion to streetwear. Dragon Ball is everywhere.
Everywhere.
And we found, that was what we found when we did our smaller survey for our podcast, that just about everybody knew who Goku was. They would say, oh, that's the guy from Dragon Ball, right? I've seen that before. My brothers watched that, whatever.
My grandma got me a hoodie from Zoomies, which she has no idea what it is, but she knew that that's something that I might like.
So how did people in the room respond to this?
Okay, so Card Captor Sakura got 45 votes.
Okay.
Sailor Moon, 64.
Okay.
Spike, 59. Goku was 66. And Ray was 52.
Okay.
Okay.
So wait, who was number one?
Highest percentage right now is Goku.
Yeah.
Followed
Goku.
shortly by Usagi.
Right, okay. And that's pretty much what we found too. We found Usagi did quite well for herself. Almost 3 out of 4 people we talked to recognized Usagi from Sailor Moon. Made me feel bad because I have not seen Sailor Moon before, actually.
I've only seen the first couple episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is news to us.
Yeah, I figured you would have watched it. No word. Right, because
I watched Card Captor.
you couldn't cheat on Sakura.
I couldn't. No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So clearly, Sailor Moon holds a lot of cultural weight for people. People recognize the girl from Sailor Moon. People pretty much recognize Spike from Cowboy Bebop as well, to the same degree. 72% of people recognize Spike. I found that kind of surprising personally, because I don't think of Cowboy Bebop as having the same level of crossover appeal. It's not like Cowboy Bebop is something that you're watching as a little kid that has feelings of nostalgia attached to it. My first experience with Cowboy Bebop was watching it on the Adult Swim anime block on Saturday nights. See somebody in the back nodding their head. Yeah, yes. That's right.
Dan would rush home from his outings.
True. Yeah, I've talked about that on the podcast. That when I was in college, every Saturday night, gotta be sure I'm back by midnight so I can watch all the anime on Adult Swim. Yeah, but people really recognized Spike. I thought Rei Ayanami was going to do real good because Neon Genesis Evangelion just got picked up by Netflix. It's in the news. The new movie's coming out on Amazon next week.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, the new, and I really wanted to see a theatrical release for Rebuild 4.0. I'm disappointed that doesn't seem to be happening.
You were going to travel to Japan to see it.
Yeah, that was my plan, because by coincidence, I saw the first 2 Rebuild movies in theaters in Japan. I missed the third one, and I felt kind of bad about it, so I made up my mind with the 4th one coming out. I was like, man, I would fly back to Japan just to see this in theaters, because it's important to me. But apparently, it is not as important to other people, because Rei Ayanami did not score that well. Only 41% recognized Rei Ayanami. Actually, Sakura did a lot better.
Yes.
Sakura
finally.
came in 47%. Yeah. So people generally recognize Card Captor Sakura, but was Card Captor Sakura shown on TV anywhere in the U.S.?
I don't.
It was on the Toonami block.
It was on the Toonami block.
WB.
On Kids WB too. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. So maybe it wasn't Fox cartoons. Then it was WB cartoons that had Dragon Ball Z, Card Captor Sakura, Ronin Warriors. Yeah, I used to wake up and my dad's here because he's the best dad. He's so supportive.
Yes, hey Patrick.
He remembers that I used to wake up when I was in elementary school. I'd wake up at like 5:30 in the mornings on Saturday so I could catch Techno Man and then just watch anime and cartoons straight up until noon when wrestling came on.
You would let him do that till noon? Man.
Yep.
Give the man applause.
Yeah. And then Goku came up with 80%. That was our highest scoring character.
Yep.
And kind of the same as we found in our podcast survey. Goku is truly one of the icons of anime in the U.S. People across the board tend to recognize who Goku is. All right, so we'll move on to the 2000s.
Ooh, early oddies. Let's go.
Yeah, and I was kind of curious to see if as we went through the decades, if there would be more recognizability for more recent characters.
Well, this is a weird time in general, so.
The 2000s.
Especially for anime.
For the 2000s, you think so?
I mean, I was torrenting things like Green and like weird stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Maybe, and maybe the 2000s is when we start to see that change. And we've talked about this on our podcast, the kind of change, when you're into anime, in the 90s, in the 80s, there's certain like cultural flashpoints, cultural hegemons, everyone has seen Cowboy Bebop, everyone's seen Evangelion, everyone's seen Trigun, because there's a limit of availability. If you're into this kind of stuff, that's what you have access to. So everyone sees it, everyone bonds it over it. By the 2000s, we start to see anime moving into the world of streaming, into the world of simulcast. It gets a lot more distributed. Then suddenly there's a focus, now that everything is available and it's available quicker, there's more of a focus on currently airing shows. Now most of my friends are watching, the latest seasonals. And they're all,
that's me. I'm your friend. I do that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Everyone's watching the latest and the greatest TV shows, and I have never done that. I watched Vinland Saga as it was coming out, but for the most part, I'm always a couple years behind everyone else.
Well, that's just how you watch anime.
It's true. Yeah. I'm watching Ashita no Joe right now, so I'm like way behind.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Amelia. You got me to watch a seasonal run, and it was very taxing.
Yes, seasonal anime is no joke. Burnout is real.
Yeah, so Amelia, your selection of iconic characters of the 2000s was Chihiro.
Yeah, because for the longest time, Spirited Away was the highest grossing anime movie of all time.
Yeah, I think Chihiro's results are going to speak a lot to the popularity of Studio Ghibli. Right?
And Totoro as well.
Well, yeah, but I kind of feel like Totoro is like the gimme, because Totoro also has such a unique character design. People would recognize Totoro just from the silhouette, past the silhouette test, as Geoff has talked about before. But Chihiro, in some ways, could be the any anime girl. If you look at her character design, there's nothing about her that really stands out per se. But Studio Ghibli is so big, distributed by Disney, you can go to Target and buy this movie.
Yes.
So maybe people will recognize this character.
My mom has this movie.
Yeah, I have a Fox version of this, an awful dub, and don't recommend anything beyond what was coming out. They have these still box sets now, right, on Blu-ray. Get them while they're still available, I guess.
Yeah, and Geoff, you were asking people about Haruhi.
Yeah, Haruhi, for me, symbolizes a time where there was a transition between, downloading fan subs and starting to get things streaming. And I remember specifically thinking, after this, like more Moe-style characters, more Moe-style anime was being produced.
Well, the 2000s is when all of the eyes got extremely big.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there were a lot more panty shots happening in anime. And if that's your thing.
Yeah, and so on our podcast, we talk a lot about anime theme music, and that was something that we came up, that we discussed as well, as the idea that by the, in the 80s and the 90s, when you listen to anime OPs, you can kind of judge the emotional timbre and the genre of the show based on what the OP is going to be like. And by the 2000s, everything's like, high-pitched, voices of women singing.
Yeah, and doing dances together in openings.
Yeah, I mean, Haruhi's anime had coined the iconic Karakara Yukai dance, right?
Yeah.
And so I was asking people about Naruto. Naruto, of course, we know is so popular as a TV show, but also even if you just watch the news, you can see people doing his run as they invade Area 51. And
That
so
actually happened, guys.
yeah, and Naruto is when we start to wonder, does meme culture play a role in fueling popularity and fueling iconicness? My best friend Eric is a guy that would say, I don't like anime, I don't watch anime, I don't care about that stuff, that's for nerds. He does the Naruto run and thinks it's real funny. He's like, oh, see, I'll do the run. He's never seen Naruto. He doesn't even know it's the Naruto run. He just knows that it's funny because it's a meme.
Yeah.
Then we also asked people about Luffy.
We debated on this character for a while when we were trying to think of characters from the 2000s, and we felt like it would do the panel disservice to not ask about Luffy because
it's the third highest grossing comic franchise ever. I love to just bring that up all the time. It's like it goes Superman #1, Batman #2, One Piece #3.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One Piece beat Batman
There you
now,
go.
up to #2.
Yeah.
Dude, we're living in the past up here, man. I'm sorry, I'm behind the times. Yeah, One Piece is so big, but also One Piece, as we think about certainly Luffy is iconic in many places in the world, but as we think about where is One Piece really popular, I think a lot of times we think of America is not One Piece land in the same way that, if you go to Japan, if you go to places in South America, One Piece is just so spectacularly huge in these places. Certainly part of that is because when One Piece first came to the U.S., it was distributed by 4Kids and given that horrendous dub. It was localized, so Sanji's not smoking a cigarette, he's got a lollipop, and everyone's getting shot with the little red plungers instead of real bullets. So I think that, maybe that has an effect on, the kind of popularity of One Piece, the recognizability of One Piece. People look at one episode of One Piece on TV and they're like, oh, clearly this is for little kids, so I'm not going to watch this. And it doesn't really sink in. So what we found when we asked people about this is that Chihiro scored quite well. 64% of people recognized Chihiro.
Yeah. She's
So
recognizable.
Yeah, we have 63 votes in for her.
Really?
Yeah.
as we've been going through this, it's kind of interesting how the kind of score that we get from everyone that's kind enough to participate on their cell phone is
Kind of
relatively close to what we found with our polling as well. So that's kind of interesting. How did the other characters score?
So we have 47 for Haruhi, Naruto had 65, and Luffy had 66.
Ooh,
Luffy
okay.
at 66, okay.
Okay.
So Haruhi came in at 48% when we were asking people. I was surprised that was so high.
Me too. Oh, well, I was actually surprised that it was not lower.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, did people just recognize that this is an anime girl in a generic way, or did people really say, oh, this is Haruhi?
Well, I think there's confusion, and I think it depends on who you ask. If you ask the man on the street, the girl on the street, have you seen this character? Yeah, they might confuse it with someone else. But the schoolgirl outfit is iconic in and of itself.
Yeah, that's a good point too, right?
Goku is well known. I mean, there's a million characters with that outfit on. But the pink tie, or the hair ties, is what sells it for me.
And the armband.
And
And the armband,
of
be
course.
part of the SOS brigade. Yeah, the schoolgirl outfit is a really good point. When we think of the Akatsuki and their outfit being iconic, being relatively well known as the characters, certainly at this point, Japanese school kid outfits, boys' outfits and girls' outfits, they're much, I guess, all anime shows dealing with high school have people wearing these same outfits, so that becomes a little bit iconic in its own way. The trope of the Japanese schoolgirl. So, yeah, that makes sense. Naruto came in at 50%.
I'm
About
so
half the
surprised
people
about
recognize
this.
Naruto. Yeah, I thought that was a little low too.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if I just did the run, with
Yeah.
that score higher. And Luffy only came in at 55%. So that was a little bit lower than I was expecting. But
Very disappointing for you, huh, Dan?
Yeah, but I was more disappointed in Rei Ayanami personally, because I thought for sure that with Evangelion hitting Netflix, and it hit Netflix relatively recently, so it's got the boom. It should be getting, Rei Ayanami should be getting points from being a relatively legendary fan favorite, critical acclaim franchise
maybe
itself.
The fan favorite isn't really Rei Ayanami. Maybe it's Asuka Langley.
That's fucked up. Oh wait, can I curse in here? That's not right. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You think Asuka would go higher?
I think Asuka would have.
Well, Asuka's everybody's tsundere.
Maybe this is just my personality, man. I'm a Ray guy through and through. Asuka's not nice. She's very rude.
Asuka.
You guys are blowing my mind. All right, I asked about the wrong person, I guess. Yeah, okay. Well, now I know.
He's the iconic tsundere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Tsundere is a well-written tsundere.
True enough. Yeah. So, yeah, Luffy did not score nearly as well as I thought he would. I think that speaks to the idea that One Piece's popularity is bigger outside the U.S. than within the U.S. And I think it is the way that while Naruto and Goku, Dragon Ball Z, a lot of these shows are put onto Toonami and Adult Swim, One Piece was not distributed to quite the same degree, and it suffered a lot from that, from getting the 4Kids treatment early on. I actually read a really interesting anecdote about that the way 4Kids picked up One Piece was completely by accident, that they were trying to get the contract set up for Shaman King. And their Japanese licensor said, we really want to push One Piece, because it's so big in Japan. We won't give you Shaman King unless you take One Piece as well. And the 4Kids people had never heard of One Piece at the time. We're like, yeah, okay, whatever. We just want Shaman King. Just give us One Piece too. Then they looked at One Piece and were like, oh my God, this is so violent and so adult. This is not for kids. What are we supposed to do with this? That's why they gave it this, really intense localization treatment and tone it down so much. So I think, it's a shame that was One Piece's introduction to the American market. I think if One Piece had come in kind of being shown in tandem with Dragon Ball on Adult Swim and been given kind of its full, all the violence and kind of adult theme that's in that show, I think it would have done a lot better for the franchise. I think Luffy would have been more up in the 70s, if it had been distributed in that way.
Well, I think that with Naruto as well. I didn't watch the Naruto dub. My introduction to Naruto, that was my first anime, and I used to torrent that from Horrible Sub's fan site. And I watched it in sub, obviously, but I feel like a lot of people's introduction to Naruto was the dub version, which I think is completely a totally different show, and it's way more dumbed down for children.
Right. Yeah, this is true. Okay, so we'll move on to the 2010s. You were asking people about Tanjiro.
Yes. I mean, Demon Slayer is my personal favorite franchise right now. We went and saw Mugen Train in theaters, and we were literally not even 5 seconds out of our hotel room before we saw a group of Demon Slayer cosplayers. We're at a con. You can't go 2 steps without seeing them. I wish there was somebody in this room to prove my point, but...
Oh, yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, no Demon Slayer cosplayers in here, so therefore Demon Slayer is not actually all that iconic.
It is super iconic. Okay, I'm just saying.
Mugen Train, now the highest grossing anime film of all time. I'll tell you, so when I saw Mugen Train in theaters, it was showing on 2 screens simultaneously.
What?
And because of coronavirus, they had each theater at 50% occupancy or whatever, so they had kind of assigned seats. But because it was showing on 2 screens simultaneously, people would go to the wrong screen and then sit in their assigned seat, so it would be blocking someone else's seat, and it was just a huge mess.
We did an episode on this on our podcast, and there was lots of weeping, and Dan did not take time into it.
Yeah.
But, each person reacts differently to media.
Well, and with our next character, Deku, we went and saw 2 Heroes in theaters.
It's true.
And there was so many fangirls in that.
Yeah, there are a lot of little kids, yeah.
Yeah, every time that Todoroki came on screen, everybody was screaming in the theater.
That's true. Yeah, Geoff, you were asking people about Deku.
Yeah, Deku. So Marvel, the proliferation of Marvel and all these different DC comic book movies coming out. it just makes sense that Deku would be popular in the 2000s, especially 2010s. He, as far as his design goes, I mean, he stands out, I guess. The green hair and more green. Tanjiro sitting next to him.
Green.
We see a trend. But with the TV show on Toonami, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It just has the same mass appeal.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, my best friend Jenny has a young boy, Owen, who's a kindergarten age right now. And I've been asking Jenny for like a year or two, like, do you think Owen's old enough to watch anime yet? Do you think we can sit down and watch anime together and can bond a little bit? So we watched an episode of My Hero Academia together, and he was not impressed. He was clearly very bored, but sat through it. We sat through it, me, Jenny, and Owen. And then when the episode was over, he was like, Mr. Dan, as he calls me, he's like, Mr. Dan, can we watch an episode of my show now? And I was like, yeah, of course, man, put it on. And he put on one of these like 3D animated kids shows with talking cars, and then they discuss numbers and counting on the screen. And I was like, man, we're in different places. Huh? When I was a little kid, I just wanted action cartoons, man. I was not interested in like Sesame Street as much. That's how I remember it, Dad. But yeah, I just wanted to watch big muscly guys beating each other up, and any action cartoon I could get my hands on.
I kind of still feel like you like watching shows like that.
Still. I was thinking about that because I was watching Kuroko's basketball, and about halfway through the show, I thought, this is not actually that great a show, but all I really need are people yelling about their fighting spirit and how they'll never be defeated, and that's enough. That's all I really need in anime. So I was asking people about Dio. Dio, I thought maybe iconic because people love a good antagonist. We saw that in our podcast version of this, where people recognized Akatsuki, recognized Phantom Troop almost as much as the main characters. I thought Dio probably more iconic than any individual JoJo. And Dio is also kind of the king of memes, right? He's an internet celebrity. His memes are popular enough that Hot Topic makes shirts that are just the memes on a shirt.
Oh my.
So I thought, okay, now we will really see this current meme culture fueling popularity and recognizability. Is it enough to become an icon based just on memes? So how did people in the room respond to this?
So Deku was at 37% with 67 votes. Dio was a little lower, 46 votes at 25%. And Tanjiro was 35%,
okay.
62 votes.
So wait, which one had the highest one?
So right now we have Deku.
Deku is the highest one.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how that fared in comparison to us. Tanjiro came in at 60%. He did more than half the people we talked to recognize Tanjiro. I think that speaks pretty well to to be more recent. Can help boost your scores with this.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Plus, the people that I was asking, a lot of them had Demon Slayer shirts. I asked people at Hot Topic who were looking through the Demon Slayer shirts, so it was kind of like a no-brainer for like the demographic that I asked. But Demon Slayer has made such a mark on anime, like in the past 3 years, especially with like manga sales. The manga's totally completed, and yet it still is like breaking records.
Yeah, Deku scored very, very well. 71% of people recognized Deku. You want to speak to your experience asking people about Deku?
Well, I did a lot of my surveying on Reddit in the polling. Asking people at work. Most of the people at work knew who he was.
Well, you got one of our coworkers into watching My Hero.
Yes, I talked
You pestered her. You pestered her enough to watch anime.
Yeah, but by asking people at work and just people in general, what they reply to is different based on where they have grown up. So in South America, Latin America, you might have a totally different viewpoint on what is popular based on what's screening and what is showing on TV. I know for sure that Saint Seiya is much more popular outside the US. And I think if that had been shown properly on TV, it would have a wider audience.
And Dio comes in last Only 21% of people recognize Dio.
I think he's the lowest in our entire survey.
He was the lowest in our entire survey. I was really shocked by this. And I will say that of the 21% of people that recognize Dio, a lot of those people did say, oh, I don't know who that is, but I recognize the memes. Like, I know this guy from memes. Even if they hadn't actually watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. You know, I thought that JoJo's was going to do a lot better because it's currently airing, you know, because it's, part 6 just got announced recently. But I think Dio may be more known in the anime community, but has not yet gotten to a point where they move beyond that, where they transcend the anime-only community into a broader sense of mainstream recognition.
That's interesting because I also equate like Tanjiro and Dio together because I feel like more people who are in the anime community recognize those characters more, whereas Deku, I feel like anyone who's into superheroes is gonna like Deku, even if like they haven't seen the franchise or they don't know anything about the franchise. His character design just looks like he's a superhero. And superheroes are super in right now.
Yeah, and showing characters that are weak to start out with, they have no powers, I think that is a trend as well. Do you agree? Sort of weaker in the sense that like...
It makes it more relatable, you think?
Yeah.
So people buy into it more.
They buy into it, or then you have One Punch Man, which I wanted to add to the survey as well, who is the complete opposite, and just dominates.
I mean, Tanjiro starts off as like a normal person. He's just like a little boy trying to make money for his family.
Who was it we were talking to that was saying that they watched? Was it you were watching it with Kara, and Kara was saying the breathing is too corny with Demon Slayer?
No, breathing isn't corny.
No, that was that man. Was it
Batman?
Was it?
Oh, it's not Sean.
Okay, somebody said that the breathing was bad, huh? Okay.
Yeah, well, ever since I watched Demon Slayer, I think about this all the time at the gym. You know, I think a lot more about breathing and more like the sound of my breathing, you know. It's like, oh, I should sound like the guy from Demon Slayer if I'm really like, pumping iron. Getting the breathing just right.
Doesn't help at all.
Well, I feel more manly when I do it, so yeah.
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
I breathe a lot during my vinyasa slow.
So that was those were the results of our poll that we did. What we found is that generally the characters that were the most recognized were the characters that had English dubs broadcast on cable TV, especially those that were on Toonami and Adult Swim. That helped a lot for Dragon Ball Z. As we think of Goku being this, the most recognized character, the most iconic character. For example, in 2001. Dragon Ball Z was pulling in ratings comparable to WWF and ESPN Sunday football coverage. So Dragon Ball Z, presumably as known, recognizable, and iconic as any given wrestler that's on TV. But in 2002, season premiere of Dragon Ball Z was the most watched TV show for its demographics. It would beat out everything from The Simpsons to that year's season of Survivor, which was, if you remember, was a big thing at the time. So Dragon Ball Z did really, really well on American television, and I think that gave it the biggest boost in terms of popularity and recognizability. And that was my introduction to Dragon Ball Z as well. It was one of the first anime shows I ever watched. Dragon Ball Z on WB Cartoons.
I watched Dragon Ball.
On TV.
Not on TV
here.
But when my introduction to Dragon Ball is Dragon Ball the original before Z.
I've still never seen the original one.
Oh, the original's so good.
Yeah, but does it have Piccolo trying to drive a car?
No, it's got cute little baby Goku, okay?
Yeah.
I don't like it when the people that I've seen grow up and then they have kids and then I gotta watch their kids do things,
Yeah, I think about this with Naruto and Boruto, right?
Okay.
By the time, I watched Naruto from start to finish.
Yes,
I started it when I was in college. I finished it when it finished up relatively recently. By the time it got done, I'm like, all right, I've been watching this show for like 10 years. I'm a grown adult. My time with these people is complete. I don't really have anything else to get out of this. Okay. I'm not going to watch Boruto. I'm not interested in their kids. I don't care what their kids are doing.
I wasn't interested in their kids, but I was interested to see what Sasuke looks like, a couple years older. Well, I'm just saying.
I'll tell you, I was talking to a Japanese friend of mine, Kiyasu, and I was discussing this with him, and he was like, "Oh, I've been watching Boruto," and I was like, "Nah, I'm not watching Boruto, dude." And he was like, "Are you a real Naruto fan?" I was like, "Kiyasu, man, that's a challenge. Maybe I do need to sit down and watch this. The honors at stake here."
There's a lot of new technology in Boruto.
Oh, that's kind of weird. Naruto, yeah, I didn't like that angle of Naruto in general. Technology, when they have like the samurai with weird technology stuff, I don't like that.
Yeah, I think Goku is turning too many colors for my taste. I just like I like Frieza, Vegeta saga. Good there. Stop.
Yeah.
I think it's just gone too far. But I think there's a lot of people who
Well, they're green now, aren't they? With Broly, they're green.
Yes, all the colors of the rainbow.
So we also found that anime that had distribution outside the standard anime market did really well when we were polling people. We see that especially with Studio Ghibli when we think of why does everyone know Totoro? Why does everyone know Chihiro? It's because Studio Ghibli is getting distributed by Disney. So all the DVDs are very easily accessible. It's on streaming on HBO. It's easy enough to get access to Studio Ghibli stuff. It's constantly in the news. It gets really big critical appraisal. But Makoto Shinkai is coming up fast right behind him. Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Your Name doing real well. Maybe we'll get to a point where the characters in Your Name will be as recognizable as Studio Ghibli characters. So what we found that didn't have an effect at all, the size of the franchise itself didn't really seem to make a difference. We see this specifically, or one specific example of this, Cowboy Bebop versus Lupin. Spike Spiegel did a lot better with just 26 episodes in one movie than Lupin did with his wide variety of TV shows, movies, and musicals spanning the last 30 or 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Deku has his franchise that's been airing for 5 seasons now.
So 5 years of My Hero Academia.
Yeah, and Demon Slayer's only had, the one season, 26 episodes plus the movie. And they've scored kind of relatively the same recognizability.
Yeah, this is true. But yeah, it's interesting that you say this. Has it really been 5 years of My Hero Academia? That I still think of that as being a new show.
It is new.
Yeah, I think maybe are we getting old?
We are. Definitely.
It's weird how age does that to you. Speaking of age, we also found that age of the franchise didn't really play a role in kind of our results. That some currently airing shows, like My Hero Academia, scored basically the same to older classic shows like Sailor Moon. And conversely, just being fresh, just being new, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is not necessarily new, but its TV adaptations are relatively new.
Yeah, the manga's from like the 80s, right?
Yeah, but the David production, when I think of why JoJo's Bizarre Adventure would be popular at the moment, it's because of the David Productions TV adaptations, and those are relatively new.
Yes.
I kind of feel like everyone would know JoJo's based on the adaptations.
Well, yeah, they know JoJo's, and now they're like, oh, I'm gonna watch Fire Force because David Productions be doing some stuff. And it looks good. Yeah,
that's true. But yeah, just being fresh like JoJo's with its more recent, more timely adaptations didn't guarantee any kind of recognition. Same thing as for Doraemon, simply being around for a really long time didn't really guarantee any recognition. You didn't gain anything just by being in the game for a really long time. Mm-hmm. So in conclusion, these are who we found as the icons of anime in the US. And our experiences were that kind of regardless of your age, whether it was the 50-something moms at my gym or our young and hip friends and coworkers, that people tended to know who Goku, Usagi, Spike Spiegel, Totoro, and Deku were.
Mm-hmm. My mom has an extensive Studio Ghibli collection.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure because they're easy to find, because they're well distributed by Disney. And I would even say the dubs are better than the subs for all the Ghibli stuff, because Disney can pay to have really good voice actors.
Well, and there's so many movies, it's easy to give as a gift. Well, one holiday, the next holiday, you get
true
the
enough.
next one.
Yeah, true enough.
Mm-hmm. You just buy them already. You have like a stock full of Ghibli movies.
You get the regular version, then you get the Blu-ray, and then you get the Steelbook limited edition.
Yep. Any ending thoughts for us, Geoff?
Who is there? Anybody you think we missed? Just start. Yeah.
Actually, to replace the
that's a person that we didn't put on here. We had in our
Pokemon was a bit of a misstep for us. Insofar as, it's interesting that you bring up Pokemon, because when we did this for our podcast, we had another friend of ours guest on our podcast. Our friend Christella came on and talked with us about this, and Christella kind of inspired our way of thinking about this for the panel, because Christella was so cool and so gung-ho about this. She just went out to the gas station and asked random people filling up their car with gas, totally random people, like, yo, you ever seen, Sailor Moon? You ever seen Goku? And most people were like, no, or what is this? But Pokemon scored the best. When she did it, it was like 6 or 7 out of 10 people that she asked just off the street recognized Pikachu. So yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, is Pokemon the most iconic of all anime things? On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, personally, I think of Pokemon as being more cartoonish than anime-ish, and maybe this goes to the kind of overarching argument that people often have, like, what is anime? What is the difference between anime and a cartoon? If it's a cartoon made in Japan, does that make it anime? Can you make anime outside of Japan? Personally, I think of Pokemon reading more as a cartoon. That is why it didn't find its way into this. But Pikachu and Pokemon in general, easily up there with Goku for being iconic, recognizable.
Pokemon's a multimedia project. They have games and there's a bunch, you're not just going to see the anime.
It's true. It's true.
What about Avatar?
I think of Avatar as being a cartoon personally. It's a great cartoon,
That's not your fun stand.
Maybe I'm not here to know what's happening this weekend.
What?
The third movie's coming out.
Oh, the third movie. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So I think another aspect that you can consider is sports in anime. A lot of athletes have been represented in anime significantly more, so much that you have boxers representing Rocky, Naruto. In the literal Olympics, you have the entire male volleyball team playing the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think one of the Olympic lifters referenced Frankie.
Yes, I saw that. I saw a little clip of that on the internet where the guy, one of the Olympic lifters came out and he did the Frankie pose. I was like, dude, that guy's cool, man. I want him representing America for sure. I don't know what country he was actually representing. He was US.
Okay.
Great place to live.
Dan, you didn't mention Legends of the Galactic Heroes once this panel.
Yeah, it was most iconic in my life. Yeah, that was an oversight. I don't think that's iconic here, but it's iconic to me. It's great that you brought up the professional sports angle, because that is something that I did not know anything about. Now the gears are turning in my mind. Like, man, that's something we really should have looked into. I wonder if we were to look at the number, kind of like the number of different references we can find in professional sports for anime. I wonder if there's anything that ranks higher than anything else. Is Haikyuu becoming more iconic because, in the world of volleyball, now all volleyball players are referencing Haikyuu, and that kind of builds popularity, builds momentum for this franchise. I had a roommate briefly. There was a girl that played volleyball, and that was her only knowledge of anime, was the idea I played volleyball at a relatively high level. People always talk about this show Haikyuu. I really want to watch it, but I just never get around to it, and that's the only anime thing I know.
Personally, for me, I would have actually replaced the original Mobile Gundam, because, in all honesty, I never even saw that series. First one that got me on was Mobile Suit Gundam. As soon as I saw Flying Gundam, the Destroying Finger, that got me hooked.
Yeah, true. And when we think of, is Gundam all that iconic, in what permeation, what version of Gundam would be more iconic than anything else? Hell yeah, representing. In that way, Gundam Wing was distributed on Toonami, it was on Adult Swim. Is the Gundam from Gundam Wing going to be more recognizable than the original Gundam? On the one hand, that could be, but on the other hand, my personal assumption was with the original Gundam, the idea that if anybody sees something that kind of looks like a Gundam, because it's kind of a recognizable character design in terms of giant robots, and I would think that if you see anything that looks close to it, you might think, oh, isn't that a Gundam? Because as you mentioned, there's so many different versions of it. There's so many different variations. And are they, just how interchangeable are they? Yeah, that's something that maybe we can try to figure out again in the future if we do this again.
Heck yeah.
I would like to do this panel with crossover video game characters.
Yeah, that's a good point too, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Street Fighter.
Yeah, Final Fantasy. Pokemon comes into play a lot more when we talk purely in terms of video game characters, okay, so we are coming up at the end of our podcast. Thank you.
Panel podcast.
Panel, yeah. That's right. I'm thinking about podcast because we are a podcast. If you want to listen to us, this is what we normally talk like, and we are available on these different platforms. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming to our panel.
Thank you. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, thank you for participating in our survey. And this is, each of us have been coming to Otakon for a really long time. This is the first time we've ever been on kind of the other side of the stage. And that was very, very special. So thank you.
Thank you. Leave it up. I have to hear it.
I'll bump the jams for a second.
Thank you guys so much for listening and being here. We super appreciate every single one of you that listens to our podcast every week. Join our Discord to continue the conversation and get notified when we upload new episodes. Or if you just want to hang out and chat about anime. The invite link should be in the description of whatever platform you're listening to this on, as well as in our link tree of our Instagram at Otaku Host Club, or on our website www.otakuhostclub.com. We also have a voicemail box set up in case you want to call in, leave us a message, ask a question, talk about anime, let us know how your day's going, and we'll play it on the next episode. The number for that is 240-324-8295. And if you like our content, it would be super awesome if you went over to Apple Podcasts and left us a review. It's super helpful for us to get the word out. And if you do, we'll read it on air. And with that, we'll see you in the next episode.